Hello everyone, I'm Ishani Bihari, the Head of Marketing at Soil Institute of Management. And today we are in conversation with Ms Mridu Gupta, CEO at CPAED, Cancer Awareness, Prevention and Early Detection. She also runs Shikshanjali, which is a social impact organization working to strengthen government school education by introducing the concept of empathy in the classrooms. Shikshanjali is one of the 30 plus not-for-profit organizations that soil students work with throughout the year. Welcome, Mridu.
Thank you. Thank you. So happy to be here, Ishani.
So tell us about Shikshanjali.
So Shikshanjali works on the basis of socio-emotional learning, the SEL concept, which is something that if you look at our education structure, it's something that we start to teach in B schools and, much later in life. But with all that's happening in the world, we've realized that the children are the ones who actually need the knowledge, they need the resilience, they need to learn this early in life, because by the time they hit teenage, they already have too much baggage for them to work on. So working in the education field, we realize that though we have a lot of information, we have knowledge, our teachers are trained to impart that knowledge, what is actually missing is that connect that classes, schools have, that classrooms need to have, that children need to get. They need to get that emotional quotient in place now before it becomes too late. And whatever they imbibe actually stays with them if the emotional quotient really picks up. So doing that research, we found Dalai Lama's SEEL as well, the socio-emotional ethical learning structure. We found a lot of other things that the world seemed to be doing, but it wasn't available in India. So we started to contextualize that, and we realized that this is a space that is missing. And then Shikshanjali was kind of formally established, and we started to create curriculum around it and train teachers to be able to teach it. So it's just based on the socio-emotional learning, and we use the basis of empathy. So everything that we work around, whether it's teachers, whether it's a school administration, whether it's students, whether it's imparting knowledge, whether it's conversation, it all works around the area of empathy. So that's how actually Shikshanjali came into being. I mean, we just were working in education and we found the gaps, and researching and trying to fill in the gaps created Shikshanjali.
Wonderful. And how long have you been working on this aspect, and what is some impact that you can share with us on it?
So Shikshanjali itself is 3 years, but this whole concept of working on socio-emotional learning and everything I have been doing since 2011. We had a school, parallel school that we had set up in a village here that we were working on, trying to get the children to work. So the way that we implement socio-emotional learning is through activity-based teaching. So we have centers in government schools that are called Joy of Learning centers that are activity-based learning. So whatever you're learning in the classroom, we teach it through activities. And through activities, you learn team building, you learn the spirit of losing, you learn how to help each other, time management, self-management, all the aspects of socio-emotional learning, one learns through gameplay. But it is also the curriculum that is being taught in the classroom, whether it's language or math or whatever you're doing, age appropriate. We teach it in the Joy of Learning centers. So we are doing this in government schools in Palwal, which is the second most, I think, backward district in Haryana.
Right.
So when we went to, when we did a study of the government schools, we realized that their level of learning was nowhere as expected. And that's what we all know. We all are aware of that. But when we started to do this play method, the activity-based learning, and, try and make them do things, we had some amazing results, not just from the school and the children, but from the community as well. So we've actually been able to change the timing of some villages where the madrasa used to run in the morning and the children used to come late, by speaking to the community, to the parents, getting them to understand what we're doing with the children, using empathy with them. We actually managed to change the madrasa timings to 4 o'clock in the evening so the children could attend government school. So we considered that a real win for us, because we realized that this works, talking to people at their level and getting onboarding them in a way actually works. So there are little successes that happen. In school, we start to get the PTM where the parents come, they want to know what their children is doing. Our children actually remember and retain and actually do well in a kind of a spot test. These are these little successes that make you believe that this works, and we've got to work more on it. So that's how Shikshanjali, actually we kept learning and kept iterating and kept creating till what we have today, we think works at that level. Because, even if you go to any counseling psychiatrist or whatever, they have child psychology, but they have it for urban areas. And they have it a lot from the West, or even maybe contextualized for Asia, but still for urban. Children in rural India are way below the benchmarks. So for them to for us to find something for them is a challenge. So it's a process. It's still work in progress, if you ask me.
No, so it sounds great. And I really am inspired by the fact that you talked about activity-based learning.
Yeah.
Because even at SOIL, which is at a B school level, we focus heavily on experiential learning. And I mean, our students do work with you a lot as part of the curriculum. So I think it's great that concept is coming in right from the starting years. Wonderful. And you yourself have such an inspiring career journey, working with a wide range of organizations. Can you share some highlights with us there?
So, I've been a serial entrepreneur. So I have just kind of been doing, so it may seem like a large number of industries, but one thing kind of led to another. Because when I was in Saharanpur and we were starting off at that time, there was an organization being created for speech and hearing impaired people. And I kind of volunteered and got involved with them, which was my experience with setting up a non-profit and how it works and what are all the obstacles and things. So once you're already in that space, other things just come into it, and then the idea of starting something new, ideating, creating new things, that's what inspires me. So I'm constantly doing that. I moved from that to setting up coffee shops and tea rooms and things like that. Then we started education. I've been working in the education field, the health sector. So it may seem multiple, but actually they're causes. They're just gaps that you see in when you are living, and you feel like you can maybe fill that gap and get help to people. So you create something that fills that gap, and it just becomes an organization. So they all have their own life and their own journey, but they come into being simply because one just feels that one can do something in that space. So that's how multiple of these organizations have set up. When I moved to Gurgaon, I realized there's so many coffee places and there's no tea place. So I set up a tea room in Star Mall. We set up the tea room place. So it was just something I thought was missing. And so that's how most of the organizations have come up. They're just filling a gap.
Lovely. I mean, I think just hearing about this philosophy, I think would be motivating to a lot of our viewers. And
I hope.
You've done a lot of work with SOIL students over the years through the SIP program, the Social Innovation Program. How has your experience been? What stands out in your mind?
So the concept of having management students actually get down to grassroots interventions is a fantastic idea. That's what they need. When we work with corporates and CSR, you have people sitting there who have the power to do so much. They are the ones who are actually going to be funding it, but they have no ground reality. They don't know what is needed. So they only know what fits in with their mandate, and they work at getting that done, which is perfectly okay, but it doesn't really help solve the problem at ground level. So to be able to have these children actually witness it and know what the challenge is when they go out into the world and they join corporates or they are working in CSR or however, their understanding is a lot more, which is something that is missing in the world at the moment. The funders and the doers have got a huge disconnect, because the funders have never been in the field and the doers have most probably never been in the position of having to answer to a CA or whatever. So there is a disconnect. But with these children, the fact that they actually get out there and they break boundaries of their own, they move out of their comfort zone, it's inspiring to see. Let me tell you, when this year also, the batch that had come, they were working on a monitoring format for the government schools. So they had to go into the field. It was peak summer, and they went into the government school, and the government school had no fan, and children were sitting on the ground as usual. And all of us and the students were feeling so hot. It was like, Arey pankha, how much does a fan cost? Why can't we get a fan put? And I said, we've been here only half an hour. These kids sit here for 6 hours every day, and the teachers. And without the fan in that heat, one fan doesn't cost anything, but there's so many classrooms and there's so many government schools. So if you really put it together, it's a lot. And they'll go fat in 2 years, and then again, you're going to need somebody has to constantly be funding that. So how do you do that? that was an eye-opener for them, just that much. Just being there was an eye-opener. So the fact that you all do this experientially rather than sit in a classroom and study case studies and best practices and whatever is something that I think is fantastic, and everybody should do it. Because what you get firsthand, you do not get from the best case scenarios and studying your case studies and being able to crack an exam. It doesn't come. Also, they really want to do, that youth time is the time when they really want to do. So when they are inspired to do, they come up with some fantastic solutions. We are used to doing things in a particular way, and we've done it so many times, and it becomes like routine. But they come up with really good, like we want social media help or something, they'll have new ideas, So it's having them on board is like fresh energy every year. There's the new people, new ideas, new Josh, everything is like, it becomes new again. So it just keeps you inspired and keeps you moving. So I think it's a wonderful thing to connect us with the students of Soil, and the students of Soil are very inspired. So whatever you all do at back end before you send them to us works.
I'm so glad to hear that. Wonderful. And hearing about the passion with which you are talking about your work, I mean, theoretically, a lot of us know about how, we can help in, improve other people's lives. But what motivates you? What is your work philosophy like?
So work philosophy, as in how we go about it, for me, it's being inclusive. I mean, with everybody in our team, however whatever they bring in, everybody has their own concepts and has their own ideas, and they may want to do things their own way. And if you give everybody enough space, everything works, everything gels together, and you get a fantastic result. So for me, it's actually inclusivity. That is something that I believe in. It doesn't matter. We don't have any hierarchy in our organizations. We all work at the same level. And I don't have a mind space about our area of work. For me, a cause is a cause. It could be anything, which is why I have so many multiple causes that I'm supporting. So if somebody needs help, I mean, if just because I'm helping women in healthcare does not mean that their children don't need education, or I'm only going to focus on healthcare. So when you start to work, you realize there are so many causes that would actually lead to somebody's well-being. So if you're thinking about creating well-being, you cannot be focused on only one area, right? You've got to be. So that diversity has to come in. So when we are working on one area, we have so many other things that we look into. So I think the passion stays. Everybody who is involved has got some area that they relate with. So, we are able to build that. And then I think with that, there's not much that I have to do. You have to get people involved and get them to see what there is. And then everybody takes it forward. Everything just happens and things get done, and very large projects can get enforced because everybody is doing their bit. Everybody is carrying their burden. Everybody is doing what needs to be done. It becomes more of a collaborative project. So for us, I mean, for me, that is the only way I have ever worked, that everybody puts in there what they can and we just create from there. So I'd call it inclusivity.
Got it.
Which is the only way I think we can function.
That's lovely. Talking about education, there's been a lot of conversation about the national educational policy. What do you think about it, and how do you think it'll get implemented?
So we've had a lot of conversation around that, and we've had, even when the draft came out, we had so much of deliberation on what we want to say to the government. So if you look at the policies in India, they are picture perfect. I mean, they're written so well, they are thought out, they are fantastic solutions. Even this one has picked up best practices from around the world, and we've tried to put them into the policy because we're looking at becoming an educational hub and things like that. So the policy is good. It is innovative. It's inclusive. It's got all of the elements like most policies. Our handicap is in implementation. We are never able to implement our policies in the spirit that they were written in what we were trying to achieve. So by the time they move down the ladder and they're actually implemented, they lose the force, they lose the power, they lose the actual outcome. We have never been able to achieve it, even the earlier education policies and all. So not nitpicking on whether we need to do it in the mother tongue or not do it. All of that are things that we can, work around when we are actually implementing. We need to have a process of implementation that actually creates the outcome that the policy was made with. So the policy on its own is a good policy, but that really means nothing to me. The healthcare policies are good. All policies on paper are very good because you've had these real brains sit on it and deliberate and create it. Okay, you have a whole teams and teams who are looking at it. Very good policies. It's the implementation where I have seen over years that we haven't been able to make any change because our implementation is not aligned. So how do they do that?
That's a lot to think about, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about any difficult cases or situations that you might have worked on? Any big challenges that you faced?
So there's something in our area of work that I would really want to share with people. It is the understanding of when to quit. It's to know that this project is not going to be able to achieve what it is going to achieve, or that this funding is not going to come through, or it's not going to convert enough to give you what you want, and you say that I cannot do it. We put so much of effort into our projects that they're almost an extension of ourselves, and we just can't let go. But sometimes you have to know when to let go. That is something that I have had to consciously recognize and then learn and then tell myself about very many times that, we've put in all we could put in. We've tried as much. Maybe it's not the time for this particular project. Maybe it's people are not getting it. Maybe the project just isn't what is needed, So you might think you've got this brilliant idea and, this is how it should be. And you would work on it and you do everything you can. But nobody else shows an interest in it, or it just doesn't pick up. You've got to learn to let go. I mean, that is a huge challenge, and that I see across our sector.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we have a lot to learn from you. With the current time,
many failures, as many failures as success. So it's a good thing to know.
Okay. Any advice that you would like to share with management students who are keen to take up a career in CSR?
I would say that if you really, really want to do this, if you feel for a cause, then get into it, because then you have some value to add to the whole ecosystem. People do it because it looks good, sounds good. It's something you tick off your checklist that, you're doing this. And some way you really want to feel like I am contributing. But even then, don't do it. When you really feel for a cause and you feel that I can make a difference, I can fund it. Even if you're in CSR and all you're doing is funding, I can fund it enough to see it make a change. You can really feel that drive, then get into CSR. Otherwise, just get into a good blue chip company and have a blast. I mean, making money there's nothing wrong with making money. Make lots of money, have a good life, raise our GDP, all good. But get into CSR if you really, really feel that you can make a difference. Here out. So I think it's a good thing, and you are on the other side of the table. So it's good for somebody aware to be on the other side of the table, but do it only when you're really, really sure about it.
Great. So thank you so much, Mridu, for this lovely conversation. I definitely learned a lot. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ishani. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.